All right, let me just make sure everything's working correctly. Let's go here. All right. Seems to be working fine. Seems to be working fine. Okay, just make sure it's in the link. Okay. All right, let's begin. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. As-salatu was-salamu ala al-mab'uthi rahmatan lil alamin wa ala alihi wa ashabihi wa man tabi'ahum bi ihsanin ila yawmiddin. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala ali Muhammad kama sallaita ala Ibrahim wa ala ali Ibrahim innaka Hamidum Majid. Allahumma barik ala Muhammad wa ala ali Muhammad kama barakta ala Ibrahim wa ala ali Ibrahim innaka Hamidum Majid. I hope and I pray that everyone is doing well, that this message reaches you all in the best of health, both physical and spiritual. Inshallah, tonight we'll be going over some of the rulings related to the blessed month of Ramadan. Now, I know it may feel different, obviously, that Ramadan this year is going to be spent at home rather than a masjid. Let us not forget that it is still going to be the blessed month of Ramadan. We will still be in this blessed month, meaning we should still take every opportunity that we have, that we get, to ensure that we reap the blessings, the barakat of Ramadan al-Kareem, and that we work our very hardest to making sure that this is our absolute best Ramadan. Okay. So today's inshallah talk is going to be more related towards the rulings and whatnot related. Some of the stuff we've gone over it pretty much every year since I've been there. I've been here at Zubaydah Foundation. We go over it every year. We go into a lot of details about this as well. So some of the things that are a little bit obvious, or some things that we may have learned before, I may skip over, or I may just say, refer to the slides or refer to the booklet. Okay, but we'll try to focus on more of what it is that we have. We'll try to focus more on things that are very much contemporary, but obviously touching and covering our basics as well. So if anyone has any questions, okay, you can use the comment section. I do have it pulled up, so I'll be able to see them, and hopefully be able to answer in time as well. So if you have any questions, you can reach out there, or you can reach out directly to me. You can either send a message to the Zubaydah Foundation Facebook page, or I'll tag my own page in the comments afterwards, and you can reach out to me personally if you don't already have my contact information. Okay? So, first and foremost, let's talk about the blessed month of Ramadan. Okay, so what is it that we're going to cover today? Let me move my face. Oops. All right, what are we going to cover today? We are first and foremost going to cover definitions. We are going to cover what's fasting and all that. Pretty standard stuff. We'll talk about intention. We'll talk about mustahabbat, the things that are recommended. We'll talk about the makruhat, things that are disliked. We'll talk about things that invalidate fasting, things that do not invalidate fasting. We'll go over some common, frequently asked questions that are, pretty standard for every month of Ramadan. We'll talk a little bit about who is exempt from what in the blessed month of Ramadan. We'll talk about the du'as, and then we'll end off with a little bit talking about Salat al-Taraweeh. Okay? Alrighty, just make sure this works. Okay. All right. So, first and foremost, definition. All right. When we talk about what's the definition of the dictionary meaning of fasting, and we talk about who it is that has to fast, it's important. The reason why it's first and foremost is important is because it helps us internalize what the blessed month of Ramadan is. What is it that we're doing? We all know roza, we all know fasting, we all know som, siyam, but what does it actually mean in context of the Sharia? What does the Sharia say? Okay, so what is fasting? Fasting literally means to abstain. Okay, so if someone is staying away from something, that's called fasting. They are fasting from that, which is why you will find that amongst the other religions, they have fasting as well. Their fasting is a little bit different than ours. For example, I know I had a friend when I was in grade school who was a Catholic, and he used to fast on certain days. I forget which days, but he would fast. But his fasting meant that he would not eat meat, or his fasting, some religions have that the fasting means that you won't eat a particular type of food, or you won't eat from this time to this time, but you are allowed to drink. Okay, so literally fasting means to abstain. In the Sharia says their fasting consists of two main things. Fasting consists of two main things. What are those two main things? First and foremost, the Sharia says that fasting is abstaining from food, abstaining from drinking, abstaining from intimacy. That's number one. Coupled with the intention of gaining proximity to Rabbul Alameen subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay? Both of these have to go hand in hand. If one is missing and the other is there, it doesn't count. Both of these have to go hand in hand for fasting of the blessed month of Ramadan to actually count. All right? So, once again, it's abstaining from food, it's abstaining from drink, intercourse, intimacy, from dawn till sunset. Okay? From dawn till sunset. Now, the question comes, when is dawn? Okay? Now, when it comes to the matter of what dawn is, meaning dawn is, for our understanding, we can look at dawn. Dawn is the time when Fajr begins. Dawn is the time that the Fajr Salah begins. Meaning, as we know, every prayer has a time, right? Inna salata kanat al mu'minina kitaban mawqutan. That verily Salah has been made obligatory on the believers, right? It's been made obligatory and it has been specified. The time has been specified. So every Salah has a beginning. It's like a sort of a time period, a time slot. It has a beginning time slot and it has an ending time slot. Fasting, the beginning time of Fajr Salah, meaning the time that comes in when it is time for Fajr Salah, that is the beginning of fasting as well. Meaning that is before that, before the time for Fajr comes in, you have to stop drinking, you have to stop eating, and you have to stop being intimate. Okay, and you have to have the intent as well. Right. So now the question comes: how do we determine dawn? What is dawn? Okay. Now most of the scholars, they agree on this. All right, that dawn is when before the sun reaches the horizon. So we know that the sun is going to be below the horizon. Okay, if you look at the camera right now, you see, like, imagine that the bottom of this frame is the horizon. All right. So everyone agrees that the sun has to be below the horizon. Now, how much below does it have to be? That's where there's a difference of opinion. Some of the scholars, they say that the sun has to be 18 degrees below the horizon that's when the Fajr time comes in. That's when true dawn occurs. Right? They say that when the sun is 18 degrees, so it's not here, rather it is 18 degrees below. Whereas others say, no, it is not 18 degrees because 18 degrees is longer. They say it is 15 degrees below the horizon. So it's a difference of around 3 degrees. Where does this difference come from? Okay, it's not that the Prophet ﷺ said one time 18 degrees, another time 15. No, that's not what he said. The Prophet ﷺ determined dawn to be the time to be considered Subh Sadiq, or the time, the earliest time for Fajr. Okay, Rasulullah ﷺ made that as the earliest time. Now, how did he define that? Now, the Prophet ﷺ gave us some tips on how to figure that out. All right. So one of the ahadith talk about where a Sahabi he thought that a black thread would become a white thread. Okay, where that's not what it literally meant. What it meant was that the sky, there would be a little bit of a whiteness of the sky would start to show up in a little bit of whiteness of the sun would start showing up in the sky. So now then, in the modern day and age, we have light pollution. Okay, we have light pollution. We have we have light pollution. We've got all sorts of things going on that prevent the what's it called that prevent us from being able to see true dawn. Okay, so for us, it is very difficult for us to be able to determine just by looking at the sky when true dawn starts, or when is it too late. So then the question comes, okay, how do we determine it? Well, let's determine it. Let's go to a place that is remote, and in a remote place, let's try to figure out when is it that true dawn occurs. How much below the horizon is the sun when true dawn occurs, so then we can apply that across the world. So no one has to know really how to be able to go outside and look at where the sun is. Rather, they're able to look at they can just calculate it and go by that. Okay. Now, this is where the difference of opinion began, and this wasn't that long ago. The difference of opinion then began, and some scholars, they came up with the decision. They came, according to their calculations, they understood that the sun was 15 degrees below the horizon. That is when true dawn occurred. Whereas another group of scholars, by their calculations, it ended up being that the sun was 18 degrees below the horizon. That's when true dawn occurred. Understand? So that's where the difference of opinion comes in. Now, what is my take on this? The way I look at it is that the blessed month of Ramadan is something that is extremely precious. Our fasting in this blessed month is priceless, which is why Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he talked about the reward for a fasting, right? The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Wa ana ajzi bihi," that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that I will give the reward to that person. Some of the scholars, they even read that as "Wa ana ujza bihi," that I am the reward. Right? So it's huge. The reward is huge. My personal suggestion is, why would we want to jeopardize that? We would take the road that is the most cautious. Right? We would take the most cautious road. That's the one that we should adopt, to make sure that our fasting is in fact counting. That our fasting isn't just, we don't even realize it, and it's getting wasted. Rather, we want to make sure that our fasting is counted. So we take the approach that says to do the earlier time, because that is the more cautious approach. We're all, at least most of the people that are watching this, they're going to be brown, right? They're immigrants, or they're from immigrant culture. When we have to go to the airport, what do? We don't go 2 hours. We don't go 1 hour, 1.5 hours before the flight to the airport. When do we go? We go 3 hours. If it's it's a flight from JFK or something, we'll say, no, let's go 4 hours just to be safe, just to be cautious. So if we are applying the principle of being cautious in our flight to go to someone's wedding, or our flight to somewhere, why not apply that same principle when it comes to the rules of the Sharia as well, when it comes to the fasting? Okay? So that is why my personal opinion, and this is the advice that I give as well, is that when it comes to the starting of the prayer, starting of the fast, you should exercise the cautious approach. You should exercise the opinion that is the cautious one. Why? Because you don't want to jeopardize it. All right? an easy way to understand it is if you go on your phones, right? We all have the phone apps. Inshallah, I'll send out a Ramadan schedule as well, okay? And it's about a 15-20 minute difference, to be honest. That's about really all it is, right? So if you go on your phones and underneath the Salah settings, right? If you go into your Salah book, Salah app, and you go under the Salah settings, right? There's going to be a setting that says calculation method, right? In that calculation method, you can set it to custom angles, where you say Fajr is 18 degrees. Okay, I don't know if you can see it I don't know if it'll show up. See that one? Right there. Okay, 18 degrees. That way, you can exercise caution and you can be on the more cautious side. It's that extra leaving 20 minutes early to go to the airport. Okay, so that is fasting. Fasting is abstaining from dawn to sunset, from food, drink, intercourse, and doing so all with the intent of gaining proximity to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right, someone just texted that it wasn't working for them, so I just replied to them. Okay. All right. Oops. Now, who has to fast? This is a good question. Who has to fast? Fasting in the month of Ramadan, as we know, it is obligatory. It is mandatory. This is mandatory. It is not an option. It is mandatory for every adult, male or female, who is physically, number one, and mentally healthy, number two, and number three, is not a traveler. So 3 conditions have to be met. Number one, that person has to be physically able. The person has to have the physical capacity to be able to fast. Number one. Number two, they have to have the mental capacity to fast as well. Meaning, if a person suffers from some sort of disease, Allah protect us all, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala keep us all in His afiyah. But if someone suffers from a debilitating mental disease, all right, then that person is not mandated to fast. Rather, that person is excused. Okay, one of the more frightening diseases that we see happening a lot. We've had a couple cases in our own family as well. Is that of dementia. Dementia is a scary, scary disease. Seeing someone pretty much lose their identity, lose and forget who they are. But that's an example of someone who is mentally unhealthy. So if they are mentally unhealthy, then they will not be required to fast. Right? And the third is that they are not a traveler. Now, the restriction of not being a traveler, that still applies even today, even if you are flying on first class. The restriction, the rukhsa, the excuse of not having to fast if you are a traveler still applies even if you fly on a private jet. Why? Because when the Sharia has given us a rukhsa, when it has given us a leeway, we will take that leeway, we will accept that leeway, and we are not going to look at what is the illah. We are not going to look at necessarily what's the cause and then we are going to base it off of that. Rather, we will say that that's what the Sharia said, so we will apply that as well. All right. Now, if a traveler has the physical capability to fast, which most of us when we're traveling do, if the traveler has that physical capability, they should fast. It's not that they shouldn't fast, they should fast. But they do have the choice of not fasting at that time and then just making it up later on. One thing I will say on a sort of side note is that the fast done in the blessed month of Ramadan is incomparable to any other fast. Even if it is a make-up fast of Ramadan that a person is maybe doing outside of the month, it is incomparable to doing something in Ramadan. The blessings, the barakat, the nur that comes down from Allah Azza wa Jal in the blessed month of Ramadan, that is incomparable with anything. All right. So if you have the ability to, right now I think this doesn't really apply because I don't think any of us is really traveling in the coming weeks. Well, even if you are, you shouldn't. But that's yeah. All right. So fasting is not fard on prepubescent children. If a child has not reached puberty, okay, then it is not mandatory on them to fast. Should they be encouraged to fast? Absolutely, they should be encouraged to fast, but it is not mandatory on them. So how do you determine when a child becomes an adult, when they hit puberty in Islam? In Islam, when a boy has a wet dream, right? When a boy has a wet dream, meaning they have some sort of dream, or they essentially they have a wet dream where they release fluids at nighttime, and that makes taking a shower obligatory on them. That means that they are now an adult. That means that they are now an adult. For girls, for women, girls become women in Islam when they start to menstruate. So once a girl has started to menstruate, then she is now considered an adult in Islam. All right. If a boy or a girl does not have, if a girl does not menstruate, or if a boy does not have a wet dream till the age of 15, then they are automatically considered adults. But let's say children, boys, have a wet dream at age 12 or age 11 or age 13, then they will be considered baligh. They will be considered adults in Islam from the day that they have a wet dream. In Islam, it is not based on a date or a year. Rather, it is based on actions. It is based on what happens to the body. Similarly, with a girl, as long as she is over 9 years old and she menstruates, it doesn't matter if she is 10, 11, 12 years old. As soon as she menstruates, then she is considered an adult, and all the responsibilities of an adult woman in Islam are mandatory on her as well. All right. So fasting is not fard. It is not mandatory on prepubescent children, although it is recommended. When I was younger, I've given this example before as well. My mom used to have us do what we call chidi rozas. Chidi rozas were where you would fast, but you were allowed to take a break in the middle. Right? I was, I think, 6 years old or 7 years old when my mom started us with that. And then a few years later, my older brother and my older sister would make fun of me for taking a break. So I ended up starting to start fasting early as well. Right? But it encourages you. It encourages children to start fasting early. You don't have to call it a fast per se. You can call it something else, but encourage them. Have them take part of this. Don't let Ramadan just be I'll deal with it when he gets older. Okay? Moving forward. Now it comes to the intent. Right? When is it that we have to make an intention for fasting? All right? So the general principle is that intention has to be made before each fast for it to count. The general principle is that you have to know that you are fasting. If a person, for example, doesn't eat food, doesn't drink anything, isn't intimate with anyone from dawn to sunset, but they didn't have the intent to fast, to have a roza, to do siyam, then they will not be considered a person that fasted in terms of the Sharia. They have to have the intent. They have to have that intent that they are willing to, they want to fast right now, and then it will be considered a fasting in the light of the Sharia. Right? So it is necessary to make that intention every day, which is why one of the du'as that we learn. Okay, I think let me pull it up. Well, one of the du'as that we learn I'm not sure where it is, but yeah, one of the du'as that we learn for in the beginning of fasting, right, is that we teach our children to say, I intend to fast. Okay? I intend to fast. Nawaitu li sawmi min Ramadan. Right? Nawaitu, I intend. So we should absolutely renew our intention on a day-to-day basis, but the general principle is that for a fast to count, the intent has to be there. Okay? Now, what is the time that you have to make an intention? Okay? What is the time that you have to make an intention? Now, this is important as well. When is it that you have to intend to make to either fast or to not to fast before there is some sort of penalty? Right? So the time for intention starts from Maghrib of the night before, because remember in the Shari'i calendar, Shari'i day starts on the Maghrib preceding. It starts on the preceding Maghrib and it ends on the Maghrib of that day. So the time for intent starts from Maghrib of the night before, and it lasts until Dahwatul Kubra, which is called midday. We'll talk about that is of the following day. So from Maghrib till midday. Right? For example, Ahmed wants to fast on Tuesday. When can he make that fast? If you look at that little graphic on the bottom, I think you can see my mouse as well. That you see this right here, from the Maghrib all the way till Dahwatul Kubra, before Dhuhr, right? It's actually quite a time before Dhuhr that he has to make intention. Okay, so he has that intent to up until midday to make that intention of whether he's going to fast or not. Remember, if a person has not made an intention, but they do something that is contrary to fasting, for example, if someone, let's say, has not made the intent of fasting just yet, and it is 9 o'clock in the morning, it's 9 o'clock in the morning, and they still haven't made the intent of whether they're going to fast or not. But they had a bowl of oatmeal in the morning. At 7 o'clock, they had a bowl of oatmeal. That's after Fajr time has already come in. Then they cannot fast that day. Intent past dawn is only valid. Intent, once again, I'm repeating this. Intent past dawn is only valid if no action that is contrary to a fast has been done. So if a person has eaten between the time of Fajr coming in and Dahwatul Kubra, which is midday, then that person cannot change their intent, or they cannot make an intent at that point. That means that day is wasted now. Okay? So what is midday? Midday is what we refer to. Midday is the exact time that is between dawn, Fajr time, and the beginning time of Maghrib Salah. That is what we consider a midday, not 12 o'clock. 12 o'clock is not midday all the time. Sometimes it is. Sometimes it may be, but not all the time. Right? So what is midday? Midday, the starting point is dawn. It is the time for Fajr coming in, and then sunset. All right? So it's from the beginning time of Fajr to the beginning time of Maghrib. Whatever time you have in the middle, you slice it in one. You slice it, you divide it by 2. That is considered midday. So a person who has not made an intent, if they intend to fast, they have to intend before that midday point, exact midday point. Okay? For example, take the example. Fajr starts at 4 a.m. Let's say Fajr starts at 4 a.m. Maghrib starts at 9 p.m. How many hours is that in the middle? That is 17 hours from Fajr till Maghrib. Okay? 17 hours from Fajr till Maghrib. So, what is 17 divided by 2? It is 8.5. So that means 8.5 hours after Fajr starts, that is Dahwatul Kubra. So they have to make an intent before 8.5 hours after 4 a.m., which ends up being 12:30 p.m. Okay? 12:30 p.m. Understand? I hope that that's clear as well. For those that are live, I hope this is clear. For those that are watching a recording later on, please reach out to me if this is not clear. So intent has to be made before midday exact, and midday is calculated based on the beginning of Fajr to the beginning of Maghrib, and the exact half of that. All right, so now this is sort of like these slides are actually meant to be taught for in person, because it's a little bit more interactive, right? But if we since we are live, right, we are online. We are live, but we're online, so I can't really ask a lot of questions. So I can't ask for audience participation much. All right, so the question: Ahmad woke up to partake in suhoor. However, he forgot to make intention. Will his fast be valid? Based on what we've learned so far. Think of it as a little quiz. Ahmad woke up to partake in suhoor. However, he forgot to make intention. Will his fast be valid or not? Okay, think about that for a second. If you need to pause the video, if you're watching a recording, pause it. What is the answer? Yes, it will suffice as an intention. Why? Why will it suffice? Because he woke up for suhoor. The fact that he woke up to do suhoor, that is considered that's considered an action towards intent. Now, if a person has been awake the whole time anyways, and he happens to end up eating at suhoor, then that does not suffice. What suffices is if a person goes to sleep, then wakes up suhoor, but he does not physically or verbally say, I intend to fast today. His fast still does count because the action was enlaced with the intent. All right? Now, let's talk about some of the encouraged acts in fasting. Just make sure I'm being particular about time. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about what are the actions that are mustahab, that are considered to be encouraged when it comes to fasting. What are they? Recommended actions. Sayyidina Abu Darda radiallahu ta'ala reports that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, three things are from the characteristic of the prophethood. Number one, to hasten to open the fast. Okay, first and foremost, it is encouraged that when the time for fasting, the time to break the fast comes, meaning iftar, when that time comes, that as soon as the time comes, you do it. Right? You don't delay it unnecessarily. Right? This does not mean that you just gobble it up when you think that the time has come. No, as soon as you know that the time is in, then you break the fast. Right? I know a common thing that we used to do when I was younger is that we would be sitting around on the dinner table for iftar, and we would have in our Pakistani household, so we had PTV playing in the back. So as soon as the adhan on the PTV would go off, we would start eating, and my mom would tell us, wait until the adhan, the time has come in our locality, because on the TV it's not always thing. And I remember sometimes as soon as the adhan would come on the TV, throw a date or a samosa in our mouth and run with it. That's not what the hadith means. The hadith is saying, be careful, is that once the time has come in, then don't delay unnecessarily. There are certain groups, okay? There are certain groups in the Sharia, particularly the people of Tashayyu', right? They delay it, and that's contrary to the teachings of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So the first thing is to hasten when opening the fast. The second is to delay the suhoor, okay? To delay the suhoor. Once again, this does not mean that you delay the suhoor past the time for fajr. The fajr is the cutoff time. By delaying it, it means don't eat it so early that by the time fajr comes in, you're going to be hungry again. Okay, rather, delay it up until right before the time for fajr comes in. That's when you finish up eating your suhoor. That's the second recommended act. And the third is to place the right hand over the left in salah. Okay, that's just something that's not related to fasting, but important anyways. All right, so what is the best time to have suhoor? Zayd bin Thabit radiallahu ta'ala narrates that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam would stand up to offer salah after eating his food. And the timing between the start of fajr and when the Prophet would stop eating was equivalent to the recitation of 50 verses. Okay? Let's read that again. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam would stand up to offer salah after eating his food, and the timing between the start of fajr and when the Prophet would stop eating was equivalent to the recitation of 50 verses. So the amount of time it took the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam to recite 50 verses, or the average person to recite 50 verses, that is the amount of time that there was between he stopped eating and he got up for salah. All right? So you can imagine that while yes, it is good to delay it, it's not good to delay it too much. All right? Because you can make a mistake, and you can, your adhan app didn't work, or you misread it on the little calendar on your fridge, right? So when that happens, you want to put some sort of precautionary measures there to prevent that from happening. Okay? Moving forward, what is the best item to break the fast with? Right? It is Sayyidina Anas bin Malik radiallahu ta'ala reports that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam would break the fast with fresh dates before performing salah. If there were no fresh dates available, then he would break the fast with dried dates. And if there were no dried dates available, then he would take a few sips of water. Okay? Since this is connected, Zubaida Foundation is selling dates, and the money that is raised from selling those dates will go to help out the needy Muslims in our community. And with isolation and everything, there are a few families that are struggling right now. So if anyone would like to buy a 11-pound box of dates, the suggested retail is minimum is $40. But if you like to give more, you're more than welcome to. Please contact Brother Akhtar Awan. Everyone knows Awan Uncle. Please contact him if you would like to purchase those, and he will direct you on how to do that. All right, so now let's talk about what are some of the disliked or detestable acts when it comes to fasting. Okay, first and foremost, to chew anything, to chew gum, plastic item, nails, right? To chew anything while you are fasting is considered to be a makruh. It is considered to be detestable, all right? Because there's the chance that you may end up chewing something that may be considered a nourishment, and you swallow it and it invalidates your fast. So you don't want to do that. You don't want to risk yourself. Another detestable or makruh act would be to collect one's saliva in the mouth and then to swallow it, trying to quench thirst. I know kids do this. Adults don't do this. I know kids do this. We had it last year where one of the maktab students was like, I'll just keep storing my saliva in my mouth and keep drinking that. I'll be fine. All right? It's funny. It's amusing, but it is considered to be a makruh, is a detestable act that you should avoid doing that. Okay? Sort of defeats the purpose of the whole struggle of fasting. Thirdly, to delay a bath that has become obligatory and intentionally until after Fajr time. Okay? Meaning, when a person has been intimate with his spouse, both male or female, when they have been intimate with their spouse, then a shower has become mandatory on them. A shower has become mandatory on a person that has, been intimate with their spouse. Or if a boy has had a wet dream, okay, or ejaculated in any way, then that a shower has become obligatory on them. Similarly, if a woman has her menstruation has just ended, that means there's a shower that is mandated on her as well. So those are considered situations where a shower becomes obligatory. You should delay that until after Fajr time comes in, then take a shower, okay? Then take a shower and then fast, then pray Fajr. That is considered to be detestable. That is considered to be makruh. It is better to start your fast. It is better to start your fast while you are in a state of cleanliness and in a state of purity. So take a shower, have your suhoor, take a shower before the time comes in, and then pray your Fajr Salah. Right? Because you want to start your fast in the best possible way. Although it is still permissible. Okay? It is permissible to start your fast in that way. It is still disliked. Lastly, to use toothpaste or tooth powder to clean one's teeth. It is permitted to use miswak of any permissible branch or root. All right. So it's not just toothpaste or tooth powder. Rather, it means any situation where you are tasting something. Okay, if you're cooking something and you taste something, you're not eating anything, you're just tasting it. If you are putting toothpaste, anything, right? If you're not even eating toothpaste, you're just taking like a piece of gum and you just put it in your mouth and you sort of like suck on it to get the juice out, something, right? So you're tasting it. In all scenarios, tasting while you are fasting is considered to be makruh, considered to be disliked. You should avoid doing that, all right? What you should do, it is actually sunnah to do miswak. Now with the miswak, you should be careful not to get the flavored miswaks. Now you have flavored miswaks as well, right? Avoid getting a flavored miswak. Why? Because flavored miswaks are not natural. You don't find a cinnamon flavored miswak or a chocolate flavored miswak in the wild, right? There's no such thing as a chocolate or a cinnamon flavored miswak out in the wild. Rather, the miswak, right? You should try to get a miswak that is unflavored. The natural flavor that it has, that's the one that you should use. Okay, it's usually made from the pilu root. And you can find them online. You can find them on Amazon. If anyone needs it, I have a whole box of them. So if anyone needs it, let me know. I'll be glad to set up a point where we can sort of drop them off. All right. So, but use miswak, but don't use toothpaste or anything like that. Don't taste anything. That is considered to be makruh. All right. Tasting the toothpaste is makruh. Swallowing breaks the fast. That's the clear. That's the differentiator. Tasting it is only detestable, it is only disliked. Swallowing it is considered to be invalidating of the fast. Right? Some more detestable actions, so we're going to speed it up a little bit, is to complain of hunger and thirst. Say, oh, I'm so hungry. Adults don't usually do that, inshallah, but kids do that, right? Kids, I'm so hungry, I can't wait, I can't eat a horse right now, I can't wait for the biryani mom has made, or the fool that Brother Sharif, who just came online, has made, right? So to complain of hunger and thirst, don't do that. Fasting, it defeats the purpose of fasting. Fasting is to witness and feel the pain, feel the hunger, feel the thirst, right, and go through it like that. I was gonna make a never mind. I was gonna make a joke, or I was gonna make a statement about there's when someone's in love, right? When someone's in love, even the pain that a person goes through in love is enjoyable. It's something that is it's pleasure, right? It feels good. Even when a person is in love, whatever difficulty that they have to go through, they'll go through difficulty because they're doing it for their beloved, right? Similarly, when we're doing it for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He is our beloved, right? So even the difficulty, the pain that we go through, it is enjoyable. It becomes enjoyable, right? To take the water too much up the nostril when cleaning the nose. Once again, that what ends up happening is that if you take up water too much, you'll feel it on the back of your throat. That means you have invalidated your fast almost. All right. If the water trickles down your throat, then you've invalidated your fast. All right. Then to gargle more than unnecessary. Gargling is fine, but to gargle in a way where you're taking it all the way down to the bottom of your throat, right? And it sounds like you're choking. Avoid that, because once again, you risk water dripping down your throat. To quarrel, argue, use filthy or indecent words, whether it's on text or it's in words, right? Don't do that. To backbite, tell a lie, swear, are sinful acts when, even when we're not fasting, they're considered to be sinful acts. So imagine when we're fasting, how we would look at them, right? One clarification I do want to make. If a person does lie, if a person does end up swearing, that does not invalidate their fast. That does not break their fast. Okay, I know this is something it's a common misconception. People believe that if you curse or if you lie, your fast is broken. No, the fast is still valid, although you are sort of removing the barakah, the blessing of the fast, right? So it does not invalidate lying or stealing or cursing or anything like that. It does not invalidate the fast, although it is obviously haram to do. Now, what is it that invalidates fast? It invalidates fast, right? So let's look at the criteria. What is the criteria? The criteria is for something to invalidate a fast, it has to meet two conditions. First and foremost, it has a possibility of reaching the stomach or brain, meaning you are putting in some sort of edifice of your body that it has a path to either the brain or the stomach. Okay? So if you inject something, for example, in your finger or something, it's not connected to your stomach, it's not connected to your brain, it's not getting there. Whereas your nose, your mouth, right, those are connected to your stomach, so they can get to the stomach, right? So if it has a possibility of reaching the stomach or the brain, then it is no bueno. Then that means that it can break the fast, right? The second is that it enters the body via the mouth, nose, or anus, meaning the normal channels. Right? It's something that enters the body from the normal edifices of the person's body, not from something that's made or something that's cut open in that way. Okay. Invalidations are of two types. The first, invalidators that necessitate only a qada. Some things that invalidate a fast only necessitate a qada, meaning they only necessitate that a person has to repeat the fast outside of the month of Ramadan. That's the lighter one. The other one is that they necessitate a qada and a kafara. Okay? A qada and a kafara. We'll learn what a kafara is in a little bit. Alright, so what are the oral invalidators? Okay? So anything which passes the nasal or oral passage then goes down the throat, right, meaning it crosses this line right here. If you can see this red line right there, right? If it crosses that line, that means it has invalidated the fast. If it went through the mouth or the nose. Doesn't matter if it went by accident, none of that. Okay? It went down, sorry, not by accident. If it goes down, okay, then it invalidates the fast. If it's something you eat or something, forgetfulness, that's different. But if it's, you're playing around with something in your mouth, you're chewing on something and it accidentally goes down, fast is gone. Oops. What's going on? Okay. So what are the invalidates that necessitate a qada only? Right? So the invalidates that necessitate a qada, meaning a repetition, a making up of the prayer of the fast outside of the month of Ramadan. The general principle is that if a person eats or drinks accidentally, meaning they do so while they're conscious of they are conscious of fasting, his fast will break and they will have to do a qada only. Right? Meaning, I know that I'm fasting. I know that, let's say I know I'm fasting. I remember that I'm fasting, but I accidentally drink some water. Right? That will necessitate a qada only. Okay? For example, eating or drinking because one thought Maghrib entered, but it didn't. You know, someone's phone went off before Maghrib time came in. Let's say Maghrib time comes in at 7:30, and the phone went off at 7:22, and you just threw a samosa down your throat. That's an accident, but you knew you were fasting, so it invalidates the fast, and you have to make up that fast after the month of Ramadan. Right? Another example is eating or drinking because one doubted that Fajr entered, but it did. So you weren't sure that Fajr entered or not, but you ended up continuing to eat, and it turns out that Fajr had come in. That will also invalidate the fast. Right? And qada will be necessary. Meaning qada means that a person has to make that fast up after the month of Ramadan. Lastly, eating or drinking forgetfully and thereafter thinking that the fast is broken. Okay, so for example, you forgot that you were fasting. Happens. You forgot that you were fasting. You drank some water, and then after that, you didn't know the ruling. You didn't know the ruling about it, so you're like, oh wait, I already drank. Let me go and make myself a burger. Okay, that's considered also invalidator of the fast, but it only necessitates a qada. It only necessitates that a person makes that fast up after the month of Ramadan, not a kafara. Okay. All right. This is some straightforward things like from the mouth or the throat, swallowing a pebble or any other item people don't normally eat, swallowing water by accident when gargling or showering, swallowing blood that exists from the gums. Right. You're brushing or something, you're doing miswak and blood comes out, you drink it. Swallowing toothpaste or mouthwash because it's done by accident. Deliberately swallowing vomit that reaches a mouthful, right? Vomiting and thereafter thinking that the fast is broken, right? And to deliberately vomit again, it breaks the fast, but it does not mean that you have to do kafara. You do have to make qada of it. You have to repeat it after the month of Ramadan. Right? Just some more example of the nose. Water used to clean from the nose goes in, right? Now, what necessitates qada and kafara? Let's look at the principle. In principle, if a person purposely, now this is the key difference, purpose. If a person purposely breaks his fast in Ramadan without a valid shari'i reason through either eating, drinking, or engaging in intimacy, meaning intercourse, then he will have to make up the broken fast after the month of Ramadan and also observe kafara. So if a person purposely breaks a fast, knowing that they are fasting, and then they go and continue to break it on purpose. The first one was by accident. This is on purpose. Either eating, drinking, or engaging in intimacy, then that person's fast has broken and they have to do kafara as well as qada. They have to do both. They have to make up the fast and they have to give kafara. Okay? What is kafara? Kafara is to fast 60 days consecutively. Think about that. It's to fast 60 days consecutively. If the 60 days of fast are not kept consecutively, a person will have to start over again. Meaning, you fast from dawn to sunset for 60 days straight. If you miss a day, you restart the 60. That's the first option. If a person is not able to do so, right? If a person is not able to do so, then to feed 60 poor people 2 meals for a day, or to feed one person 2 meals a day for 60 days. Okay? So either you feed 60 poor people 2 meals one day, or you feed one person 2 meals for 60 days. One thing to keep in mind is that it's not that you can do either or. That's not how it works. The Sharia says that you do the first if you are not able to do so. For example, you are incapable, physically you are incapable of doing so, then you branch to the next one. If you are physically capable to do so, then you have to do the first one. Strict, very strict, but that's to discourage people from breaking their fast on purpose. Otherwise, fasting of Ramadan will just become a joke. Right? So then a person should do qada first, and then they should do kafara. Right? So a person will do qada of the fast he broke, and thereafter start the 60-day kafara afterwards. Right? So in total, the person will fast for 61 days. Right? Now let's talk a little bit about what are the things that don't invalidate a fast. Right? So what are the actions that don't invalidate fast? For example, eating or drinking forgetfully. Right? Swallowing one's own saliva. Sniffing up mucus, even if it descends down the throat. But sounds nasty when you say it that way. But when you have mucus stuck right here, and you go like you pull it really hard, where it doesn't just disappear. Where does it go? It goes down, right? So that doesn't invalidate the fast. Inhaling smoke or dust unintentionally, right? Not that you're smoking, rather unintentionally you inhale smoke. You were cooking a barbecue for iftar, getting it ready, and you inhale some smoke, right? That doesn't break the fast. Starting the fast in the state of where you have major ritual impurity, meaning you have to take a shower. Starting a fast in that state, that does not invalidate the fast. Injections, okay, shots do not invalidate fast. Blood transfusions do not invalidate fast. Kidney dialysis does not invalidate a fast. Glucose or saline drips do not invalidate fast as well. Okay, these are some common issues that occur, and after discussion with with doctors and stuff, that is the right approach to take as well. The actions that don't invalidate the fast: blood test or cupping does not invalidate. Tooth extraction, subject that you don't swallow any blood or any medicine, right? Or the little mouthwash that they give you afterwards. Inhaling the air through a continuous positive airway pressure is CPAP, okay? Or inhaling oxygen as long as it's not combined with any other substance, right? So if you have to be intubated where you are inhaling oxygen, that doesn't invalidate fast. Using miswak or toothbrush, we already talked about that. Swimming or submerging the body in water without swallowing water. Tasting food, provided it is not swallowed. Nicotine patches, right? They do not invalidate the fast. All right, some frequently asked questions. All right, let me just make sure I'm not missing any questions asked. Okay. All right, some frequently asked questions. Rules pertaining to vomiting. All right, vomiting only breaks one's fast if one the vomit returns and swallows the vomit down the throat. Okay? Or the one vomits a mouthful intentionally. Either that it comes out and then you take it back in, all right? Or that you vomit intentionally. You intubate yourself to, I don't know if intubate is the right word, but you force yourself to vomit, right? If the fast is broken by vomiting, then qada is necessary, not kafara. You only give qada, all right? One thing to keep in mind, that fasting does not break by non-deliberate vomiting. If you accidentally vomit, right, it does not invalidate the fast. Deliberately vomiting less than a mouthful also does not break the fast. Deliberately vomiting less than a mouthful also does not break the fast. Now, how do you say what is mouthful and what is not? Right? That was a question. How do you decide when is a mouthful or not? Answer is pretty simple. The definition of mouthful vomiting is that which cannot be held back in one's mouth without difficulty. If you can't hold it back down, it's gonna come out, then it's a mouthful. Right? If you can hold it, then it's not a mouthful yet. Right? Question. A little amount of vomit went up my throat, then as a reflex action, it went back down. I felt I had no control over it. Does it break my fast? No, the fast does not break, as we explained in the principle why. Question. Can I swallow bits of food left between the teeth? If the particle is smaller than a chickpea size, right? How small is a chickpea? Chickpeas are very small. I'm trying to see if I have anything, an example. Okay, there. This is a little battery. All right, it's not going to focus on it, but chickpeas are about that size. If it's less than that size, small little thing, right? Then the fast will remain valid. Okay. If it's something that's this size or bigger, then it will invalidate the fast, but it will only mandate a qada, not a kafara. Okay. Question: do eardrops and eye drops break one's fast? No, they do not. Why? Because there's no connection from the ear directly to the brain or the stomach. There's no direct connection. Does nasal spray break one's fast? Okay. Now, general principle is if a person uses a nasal spray, the fast does become nullified because the nose has a direct path to the stomach. What is the solution? Consult a doctor. Consult a doctor and ask whether the same medication can be applied by means of a cotton swab to the inner lining of the nose. Okay, I spoke to some physicians about this, about whether this is a viable thing, and they said that yes, that is a viable option. So consult your doctor. I'm not a doctor by any means, but consult your doctor. Ask them whether that medication, there's a medication like that can be applied by a cotton swab to the inner linings of the nose. In this manner, the medication is not going to go past the nose line, the nasal tissue, and it'll still be applied where it needs to go. Okay. Tooth extracts and dental treatments, we already talked about that. Okay, deodorants and perfumes, they're perfectly fine as long as obviously you're not swallowing them on purpose. Smoking cigarettes, shisha, hookah, any of those, they will break one's fast, and qada and kafara both will be necessary. If someone smokes, does shisha, hookah, vape, whatever it is, right? They are going to invalidate the person's fast, and both qada and kafara will be necessary. All right, rules pertaining to asthma pump, we already sort of talked about them. All right. Question: does an injection break one's fast? We said that no, injection does not. What about menstruation during the month of Ramadan? All right. So if a woman is menstruating during the month of Ramadan, then she does not fast. She does not fast. However, even though she does not fast, she does still do things that a fasting person does. Meaning, she still will abstain from food and drink as much as possible. Okay. Unless there's some sort of medication that she needs to take, then obviously she can take the medicine, but she will have to make up those days of menstruation outside of the month of Ramadan, right? She will have to make up the days of menstruation outside of the month of Ramadan. So when a woman is menstruating, she does not fast in the month of Ramadan. Rather, she will make those up outside of the month of Ramadan. All right? There's a lot of scenarios, so we're not going to go through all of them. If anyone has any questions on them, please feel free to reach out to me, because with menstruation, from my experience, it's pretty much comes up to almost being a case-by-case scenario. So you can reach out to me anonymously. However, we can sort of talk about that. Remember, there's no shame in getting the right information about the deen, right? How to practice the deen. Right? Does a nursing woman need to fast? If a nursing woman fears that she or her child's health will be endangered by her fasting, then she is excused. Okay? Similarly for a pregnant woman. If they fear that nursing or pregnancy is going to be lead to some sort of deficiency in the child or in the nursing process, then they should not fast. They should just make it up afterwards. Okay? Does one have to perform qada fast immediately after Ramadan? No. It is not necessarily. However, it is recommended to make up the missed fast of Ramadan as soon as possible, preferably before the next Ramadan. So if you have some fasts that are remaining from Ramadan 2019, you should try to make them up before Ramadan 2020. And similarly, going forward. We'll leave that for now. I fasted all my life. I've not fasted all my life. Do I need to keep both qada or kafara? No. Only qada is necessary. Right? Now, if a person fasts but they break their fast, then they will have to do kafara. And there's only one kafara. Okay? Suppose you start a fast in the month of Ramadan, right? And you weren't religiously inclined. So you start a fast and you're like, I don't feel like fasting anymore. You have a bowl of oatmeal, right? So you're intentionally breaking your fast. Kafara and qada both come to be. Let's say you did that several times. Does that mean that you have to do several kafaras? No. Only one kafara for all the ones that you've done. Only one kafara applies to all the intentional fasts that you've broken, but qada applies to each one. So for example, if you intentionally broke 20 fasts, you will only do one you will only do one kafara, the 60 days, but you will do 20 qadas. Okay, so you will have to make up 20 fasts, and then you will have to do the 60-day kafara fast. Okay. All right, fasting on an airplane, we already talked about that. Who is exempt? All right, a traveler who will do qada after the month of Ramadan ends. An ill person will do qada if, an ill person will do qada if the illness is something that they will recover from. You have a cold, a severe cold, or you have some sort of difficulty, right? In that case, an ill person is going to only is exempted from fasting at that time, but they do have to make that fast up, right? Now, the only time a person is allowed to give fidya instead of fasting is when there is no hope of that person recovering, meaning that illness is something that is fatal. It is a fatal illness. I think the term is terminal, right? I think that's the right term. I think there's a couple of doctors, maybe they can correct me. So if they have a terminal illness, meaning that there's no recovery from that, then you give fidya. Or if a person is nearing the end of their life, if a person has become really old, right, and then they then they were sick in the month of Ramadan, then they're not going to do qada, rather they're going to do fidya. Okay? So fidya cannot just be given for anyone who doesn't feel like fasting. I don't feel like fasting, I can do fidya. You cannot. It does not count. You cannot give fidya even if you have a young, healthy individual gets a disease. Okay? And they're like, or they don't even get a disease, they get sick, right? They get some minor, average, run-of-the-mill illness, right? They're not going to have to they are not allowed to give fidya. They are not allowed to give fidya, rather they will have to do qada of it once they get better. Now, something that applies in our day-to-day situation today. What is that? Suppose someone gets COVID. Allah protect us all. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect our doctors. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect our community. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect all the people that are watching, that are listening, those that aren't, those that are related to us, everyone. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala keep us in His afiyah. But suppose someone gets COVID-19. Right? Now, the doctor is saying, we're not sure if you're going to make it. What does that person do? Does that person wait and do qada afterwards, or does that person give fidya? That person will give fidya. But inshallah, that person gets better. They make a full recovery. Then, they have to do qada again. Suppose someone is sick, and they think that, this is it, I'm not going to make it from here. And they give fidya. That's great. But then let's say they get better. the vaccine comes through, or something happens, some sort of treatment comes in where it cures them, and they're fine now. They're past the illness. Is that fidya still valid? No. Now they have to make up that qada. They have to make up those fasts that they missed initially. All of this is sort of, you can understand, is pointing towards how emphasized fasting is in our deen. All right. So what is fidya? Fidya is the amount equivalent to sadaqatul fitr. So for every fast, right, you would give the amount that is equivalent to sadaqatul fitr. Right. So for example, sadaqatul fitr is, if you remember, it comes up to be between $8 to $15 a year. All right, we can calculate that, but so it'll be that much for each fast. All right. I always encourage people to give a little bit more if they're able to do so, just to be on the safe side. Alrighty. We talked about du'as as well. That at the time of iftar, you should recite the dua, Allahumma laka sumtu, oh Allah, for you I have fasted, wa ala rizqika aftartu, and on your sustenance I have completed my fast. Another one is ذهب الظمأ وابتلت العروق وثبت الأجر إن شاء الله. The thirst has gone, the veins are moistened, and the reward is established if Allah wills. Okay? Alright, now the question comes, the big one. Let me actually remove this. The question now comes of that of Salatul Taraweeh. Okay? How are we praying Salatul Taraweeh this year? Are we praying Salatul Taraweeh? Short answer, yes, we are praying Salatul Taraweeh. Are we praying in the masjid? No, we are not. We are not praying Salatul Taraweeh in the masjid. Rather, we will be praying Salatul Taraweeh in our homes, individually, or in our small gatherings. In our small meaning, with our family members. Salatul Taraweeh, okay, is obviously a emphasized sunnah. And it is something that definitely should be prayed. But it does not require that the Quran, the whole of the Quran, be recited into it, although that is sunnah. So if you have a hafiz in your house, right, that can recite the Quran from the beginning to the end from memory, right, in Taraweeh, alhamdulillah, you're set, you're good to go. But for those that don't, it's okay. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala understand. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is Rahim. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is Ghafoor. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala understands the situation that we are in. So still pray Salatul Taraweeh at home. Still pray with congregation if you can at home. Have your mother, daughter behind, father, son there, and then one of the sons or the father leading. Bismillah, alhamdulillah, you should absolutely do that. And you should pray all 20 as well. Make them shorter if you need to, but pray all 20 Salatul Taraweeh as well. When it comes to following Taraweeh virtually, are you allowed to do that? No, you are not. You cannot stand in front of the TV while the Taraweeh is going on in Makkah or Medina or in so-and-so masjid and pray behind them. That does not count. You cannot pray Salatul Taraweeh where someone is reciting or leading prayer in a different house and you're praying behind them but via FaceTime or something. You are not allowed to do that either. All right? So for us, let's use this time to bond with our families and to make Taraweeh at home. Pray Salatul Taraweeh at home. Do Surah Taraweeh. Do short Taraweehs. Right? Recite the surahs that you know again and again if you have to. But pray 20 rak'ah. Pray them with jama'ah in congregation if you can. If you cannot, then pray them individually. But you should still pray Salatul Taraweeh. This is a very unique opportunity. A very unique opportunity that we may not ever get in our life again. So let's use this time. Let's use the time that we have to try to get in some sort of seclusion. Do ibadat as much as we can. And I hope we covered everything that was needed for the blessed month of Ramadan. If anyone has any further questions, inshallah, please reach out to me. With that being said, Jazakumullahu khair. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.